The most advanced air force in history is currently facing a tactical crisis that threatens to unravel the entire logic of American air superiority. We are watching a conflict where multi-million-dollar platforms are being neutralized by low-tech, unexpected threats. The loss of an F-15E Strike Eagle over Iranian territory is not just another headline. It is a signal that the invisible defensive networks we rely on are no longer as invisible as we thought. When the world's most sophisticated fighter jets start falling from the sky, the question isn't just about military loss, it's about the staggering economic cost of a war that is depleting assets faster than they can be replaced. If the world's most expensive military machine can be dismantled by regional air defenses, what happens when the inventory of these irreplaceable assets finally hits zero? To understand the scale of this problem, we have to look at the global system of air combat. For decades, the United States has operated under the assumption of denial of access, the belief that by using advanced radar evasion technology and sophisticated electronic warfare, American aircraft could operate anywhere in the world with impunity. This system works because it assumes that the enemy's radar is predictable. It relies on the physics of traditional electronic detection. When an American aircraft enters a combat zone, its defensive systems are programmed to react to specific types of radar pulses. The moment that system is bypassed by non-emitting passive threats, the aircraft is essentially flying blind. The path to this moment was paved by the rapid escalation of Operation Epic Fury, which began on February 28, 2026. The campaign was intended to be a short surgical strike effort designed to neutralize Iran's missile programs and leadership nodes. However, Iran's response has been far more sophisticated than initially modeled. Instead of relying on traditional radar-dependent systems that are easily jammed or targeted, Iranian forces have increasingly deployed passive and optical tracking systems. These are essentially high-end heat-seeking or optical-guided surface-to-air missiles. Because these systems do not ping the aircraft with radar, they don't trigger the pilot's warning receivers until it's already too late. The mechanism here is a shift from active to passive detection. Think of it like walking through a dark room with a flashlight. Your radar is the flashlight, and the enemy sees you coming. Passive systems, however, work like a human eye in the dark. They don't need to emit any energy. They just look for the heat signature of an engine or the silhouette of a wing against the sky. This is how the F-15E was brought down on April 3, 2026. It wasn't the victim of a sophisticated, high-altitude air-to-air duel. It was caught by a pop-up system that waited for the perfect moment to engage, forcing a harrowing 48-hour rescue operation in the Kogaluye and Boyer Ahmad Mountains that nearly cost even more American lives. The consequences of these losses are rippling through the entire military-industrial complex. We aren't just losing airframes, we are losing billions of dollars in specialized, irreplaceable equipment. During the search and rescue efforts for the F-15 crew, the U.S. was forced to abandon and intentionally destroy two MC-130J Commando II aircraft. These are not standard cargo planes, they are elite, highly classified special operations assets. The decision to destroy them on the ground was a calculated move to prevent their sensors, data links, and advanced avionics from being harvested by Iranian intelligence. The economic toll is mounting, with a recent Congressional Research Service report indicating that the cost of equipment replacement in this conflict has already surpassed $29 billion. And the total count of lost or damaged aircraft, including drones, tankers, and frontline fighters, has climbed to at least 42. A common misunderstanding is that these losses are solely the result of Iranian innovation or poor planning. The reality is that the fog of war in a highly congested, high-tempo combat environment has created a chaotic theater. For instance, on March 2, 2026, 3 F-15E Strike Eagles were mistakenly brought down by regional air defenses in Kuwait. This was a friendly fire catastrophe triggered by electronic warfare saturation and a failure of the IFF, Identification Friend or Fire, handshake protocols. Most people see the headline and think about the pilots. The military sees the headline and realizes that their own defensive architecture is becoming so complex that it is now a threat to its own assets. What happens next is a fundamental shift in doctrine. In the first scenario, the U.S. shifts to a strategy of standoff combat, where manned aircraft no longer enter the range of these passive optical threats. This requires a massive, sustained reliance on long-range cruise missiles and drones, which are themselves becoming an increasingly scarce and expensive resource. In the second scenario, the U.S. intensifies the air campaign to blind the optical systems through widespread use of high-energy lasers or advanced multispectral decoys, effectively turning the conflict into a massive multi-billion-dollar technological arms race. We must also consider the depletion factor. As the Congressional Research Service report highlights, the loss of these 42 aircraft and significant numbers of MQ-9 Reaper drones is not just a financial drain. It is a depletion of the actual physical inventory available to defend the U.S. homeland or respond to contingencies in the Indo-Pacific. Every F-15 lost over Iran is an F-15 that cannot be moved to counter other global threats. This war is effectively consuming the U.S. military's strategic reserve, and at some point, the math of replacement will no longer align with the speed of combat. Furthermore, the loss of these assets fundamentally changes the deterrent posture of the United States. When adversaries see that passive, low-cost systems can negate multi-billion-dollar fleets, they are emboldened. We are witnessing the democratization of anti-access capabilities. It is no longer just the great powers who can threaten American air superiority. It is any state, or even non-state actor, that can master the art of non-emitting optical tracking. This is a game-changer for every theater of operations, from the South China Sea to Eastern Europe. We are left with a reflection on the true cost of modern war. We have spent decades building an air force that is unbeatable in a traditional engagement, only to find that the battlefield has evolved into a place where the most expensive plane is only as safe as the least expensive sensor. The question that remains is whether this war of attrition can be won at all, or if the very systems designed to project power are now the biggest liabilities of the state. If the current trajectory of losses continues, the long-term impact on global security will not be measured in territory gained, but in the permanent, irreversible degradation of the most powerful air force the world has ever known. Are we entering an era where air superiority is a relic of the past? Or are we simply witnessing the painful transition to a new form of warfare, where the winner is not whoever has the most expensive jet, but whoever can afford to lose the most drones? The answer is being written daily in the wreckage over the Zagros Mountains, and the bill for this lesson is being paid in billions of dollars and irreplaceable national assets. Does the current strategy of pushing deeper and harder into a contested, high-risk environment actually serve the goal of stability? Or are we simply accelerating the erosion of the very assets that keep us safe? As the cost of this conflict continues to climb, and the inventory of our most critical technologies shrinks, we must face the reality that the invisible war is far more dangerous than the one we are prepared to fight.